Welcome to Association Peeps and Cubicles Drinking Coffee, our video blog where we talk about a variety of issues facing the association world. I'm John Ricco.
Rachel Loma.
Welcome to this episode. Today we're going to talk about membership needs and influences and how we can best serve our members by understanding the needs of both current as well as prospective members. But before we jump into that, coffee of the day.
Coffee of the day.
Starbucks Italian roast.
Yep, it is roasty and sweet. It is intense with a deep flavor and notes of caramelized sugar.
Caramelized sugar, you can't go wrong with
Can't
that.
go wrong with caramelized sugar.
I'm the dark roast person.
Light lady over here.
Yeah, so as we get into the show today, we'll talk about membership needs and influences and how we can really hone in on the best ways to make sure that we're meeting the expectations of our members.
Sounds great. Let's get started. So, John, membership is something that's important to every association, and it's going to be continuously on our radar. You know, how do we as association professionals look at membership, and what do we need to know about membership to really strengthen our association? I know this is something that you're pretty passionate about, and you recently spoke to a group. You know, what are some of these key takeaways that we need to think of membership about for associations?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think one of the important things that when I talk to groups about this stuff is that we as association execs often tend to assume that we know what members want. Mm-hmm. But if you look at some of the research out there, there's often a disconnect between what we as association execs think prospective members and members want versus what they actually want, especially when we're talking about younger members. Abila did some research a few years ago where they surveyed association executives and tried to identify what we think it is that people want or members want.
Right.
And, you know, we said things like conferences, advocacy, networking.
Sure.
And then when they looked at younger members, that's not exactly what they want. They want job opportunities. That's one reason they join associations. They join for networking as well as certification. So, well, I guess you could say there's a connection between networking and socializing. So that point, I guess, is covered in both, but the other two are vastly different.
Yeah. So would you say, though, that when we're talking to members or prospective members, that we really need to look at their needs and their wants before we start talking about the benefits that we may have to offer? Because it sounds like what we think they want isn't necessarily what they want or need.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, in any sales scenario, they tell you, you should spend 80% of the time listening to what it is the consumer wants. And I think us oftentimes making assumptions as to what the needs of members are is to our own detriment. So more time listening.
Yeah. So John, you spoke to the disconnect that members have between what association professionals think and what members want or need. How do we know what members are expecting from us so that we can deliver on those expectations?
Well, I think what you need to do is look to the levels of experience, the experiences you have and the customer service that you get from the private sector, mm-hmm. because that's what members expect of us.
Sure.
Whether you're a huge association with a big budget or a small association with a tiny budget, the expectations of members don't change. They're in the private sector, they're seeing great customer service at varying levels, and they expect no difference when they come to your association.
Yeah. Well, give me examples. Like, how can we tie what happens in the private sector to associations? Are there companies that we should look to?
Well, I mean, obviously any of the tech firms that are out there have taken customer service to the next level. I know from our conversations here in the office, you're a big Amazon Prime person. I mean, you got to love that stuff.
2-day free shipping.
in your door in 2 days. One of the things that you may or may not have noticed is that they have more recently made returns even easier.
Yeah.
So that's one example. I know when I used to return stuff, I used to have to print the label, tape it to the package, and then bring it to the UPS store or wherever. And you have kids like I do, and so the odds are when I go to print something, the printer's probably out of paper and there's no paper in the house.
That's so true. Paper airplanes everywhere.
Or the kids have run down the toner cartridge,
Yeah.
or you can't find the tape to tape it to the package.
Yeah.
So it's a nightmare. So, but what now Amazon Prime has done, at least for the orders they fulfill, is they give you a barcode, so you just take that package right into the UPS store, you open up your app, it scans the barcode, and boom, they print the label there. You don't have to worry about printing it, you don't have to worry about taping it to the package. Mm-hmm. So I got to thinking about that. It's like, how can we translate to the association world? Mm-hmm. And we have events, we have conferences, many of us have apps for those conferences, so why not make it easier for our members to return, say they want to cancel and not come to a conference, instead of going online and finding a form that they have to print and fax
Right.
in, or call a number to cancel, or send an email. Why not just add that feature to your app where, boom, they can automatically cancel? Now, obviously, we don't want to encourage our people to not come to our events,
Right.
but stuff happens and people need to
Right.
cancel. So what I try to do is look to things that I see in the private sector and say, ooh, how can we help serve our members better by bringing it to
I mean,
the
you totally hit the
association
nail on the head. It's finding the members' pain points, right? What is of the process that we have, what is the most inconvenient part, or what is causing them the most amount of time or headache, and how can we provide a better experience within the process? So I think it's absolutely right that we can look to the private sector to determine what we can do differently and what we can do better to serve our members better. Because at the end of the day, it's all about experience for them.
Right.
You know, they're not coming for the list of benefits; they're coming for that experience.
Exactly. I mean, a lot of times, we talk about members want experiences and how can we create good experiences. And a lot of times people tailor that message, or at least that expectation, to the younger members, the millennials and whatnot. But if you think about it, I mean, who wants to have a bad experience? I mean, who says, I want to come to this conference and I hope there's terrible speakers and it's no fun? No, everybody wants to have a good experience. So regardless of if you're 25 years old or 75 years old, if you're coming to a meeting, you want to have a good time, you want to learn a lot, and you want to connect with people.
So speaking of experiences and creating experiences, what can we as associations do to create that experience for our customer, for our member?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of unique things that can be done out there. I mean, sometimes I think, particularly those have experience working with smaller associations and small budgets, you go to some of these big conferences where they have monies to do giant ice sculptures and just crazy, all kinds of uplighting and things that maybe you don't have to do, but it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money to give somebody a good experience. For example, one group that I work with, we just did an event out at Shooters World. These things are popping up all over the country where you can go and you can shoot everything from handguns to AR-15s, and we had a great turnout. People were real positive. They had a great time. They really connected. And some people said they came because when else am I going to get the chance to shoot an AR-15 or a gun like that? So that's not everybody's cup of tea. Obviously, some people might not want to be near guns, but speaking of cup of tea, coffee is a great way. Why not do an event at a local coffee house where you try and get members there, where you can have a barista come and not come, they're already there obviously, but talk about different beans and roasting techniques, and why one coffee or one bean from one region of the world is different, and how you might expand your palate, if you will, in terms of those that like coffees and teas and that sort of thing. So that's another example of something you might do. Also popular, mixology classes. I went to a great event where we had a bartender explain different liquors and how they mix together, and herbs and infusions and all that kind of stuff. And at the end of the class, everyone was doing their best cocktail impersonation, mixing up drinks. So there are lots of ways that you can do things like that don't really cost a ton of money.
No, you're right. I mean, we oftentimes, especially for some of our smaller groups, arrange meal functions, dinners, and the day I think of the sit down dinner where everybody goes and finds a table and sits down, it's long gone, because people want this interactive experience. They want this ability to not have to sit in the same seat, but walk around and talk to people. Because these events, yes, they're for networking, but it's also for peer-to-peer education and getting an opportunity to go and talk to somebody about their pain points or something that they're dealing with at their organization that's similar to your own, and try to put your heads together and brainstorm. And so we did a cooking class, and our group loved the cooking class. They got to look at their small groups, but then they also got to prepare a meal together. And anytime you can eat together, I feel like that's a great experience.
Right.
And so looking at different ways that you can create these experiences for people that provide connection, that provide networking, that provide peer-to-peer education, I think that's a way to really elevate things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you look at, I think people, if you just look at what people like to watch and what people like to do, I mean, cooking shows, you got the Food Network, and people are into that. You look into home improvement shows and all those kinds of things, and that just shows me customization is king, because you look at Chip and Joanna or whatever their names are on
The
that
games
show.
is
Everything is custom to the hilt. You got to have what's that stuff called? That beadboard everywhere, or whatever that is. So shiplap. That's a
shiplap.
So
That's right.
People want customized experiences, and they want something unique and different, and it doesn't cost a ton of money to do that. You just need to think hard about it.
I think, and to tie this back to membership, you need to know your audience.
Mm-hmm.
Really, is what you need to do. You need to find out what their needs are and what their wants are,
Right.
so you can deliver on those needs and wants, and so you can not only just meet their expectations but exceed their expectations. There will always be this disconnect. There will always be this gap if you don't fully understand your constituent and your member. And I think that's just important before you're planning events, before you're looking at your membership benefits, before you're creating education. Is you really have to determine the needs of your member, the needs of your audience, so you can meet those needs.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. All right, well, that about wraps it up today for our episode here on membership needs and influences. Just to kind of sum up what we're talking about, it's really trying to understand what the needs of your members are, and trying to find unique experiences that, as we hit on, doesn't need to cost a lot of money, but can better help you hone in on the expectations of your members and how you can better serve and meet those needs.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks, guys, for joining us, and we hope to see you soon for another episode of Association Peeps, drinking coffee in cubicles. Have a great one.